Hello and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. I'm your host, the Whiteologist, and this is Black MINDZ News. Black MINDZ News is to report, articulate, transmit, communicate, insinuate, divulge, investigate, unveil, decode, spread the news, whether by news, video, websites, or quotes from publications. As I articulate this information, I ask that the creator of the universe be here, heart, soul, mind, and spirit. Because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people who created this place that we call the United States, we, the foundational Black Americans, the bloodline, the historical lineage, the historical people known other as BADOS, Black American Descendant of Slaves. Some say Black African Descendant of Slaves. Others say ADOS, American Descendant of Slaves. We, the today children, offsprings, and present generation, we give honor to our ancestors. You know what my motto of this show is? I'm not going to tell you what I heard. I'm only going to tell you what I know. Well, did you hear what Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren said about the Michael Brown case? Sending some kind of shockwaves, but are we to buy it is the question. Is this a political ploy, or do these women know something that the general population don't know nothing about? Yes, there was an investigation. Yes, there was a determination. Yes, they used people who supposed to eyewitness to say certain things that others were discredited. Actual individual who was there was discredited and said that he was not credible. But in the end, Michael Brown still ended up being dead, and the police officer, Darren Wilson, going on with life as usual. So what was it and why did they use this at this particular time on the 400-year knowledge? Because we are commemorating, it's the knowledge and remembrance of what transpired given to their count of 1619. What does this have to do with anything today, and why stoke up a flame unless there's some tent or a political ploy? Well, Black MINDZ News is going to look at this. We're going to disseminate this, and stay tuned as we, Black MINDZ News, the articles, and let's get into this. Today's date is August 14, 2019, and stay tuned for this broadcast. Hey, how's y'all doing? Once again, this is your host, the Whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this is another Black MINDZ report. First and foremost, we want to say what's good to my fam out there. Thank you for your participation and welcome again to Black MINDZ News. Passerbys, if you should just happen to be passing by, your GPS on your search engine somehow allowed you to come across the thumbnails or seen the title and you should click on it, Welcome to the most hated show on the black corner of the internet. The reason why we are the most hated show on the black corner of the internet, used to could get 275,000 views, which is 250,000. 50,000 and can't get no more counts, even though people are still going on it. 14 to 30,000, 20,000, somehow being suppressed, somehow is being banned worldwide. But we march on anyway, right? Due to the simple fact, again, what is it that we say over here that makes some people feel like you got to keep that one from not being heard? So anyway, welcome to the most hated show on the black corner of the internet. Go through the aisle. We always got a grand opening. Go down there and see something you might like. If you should happen to see something that just rub you in the wrong way, just remember that the motto of the show is the truth don't need no partner. Now let's get into this, right? So yesterday, I don't even think it was yesterday. Well, that's something else. I think it was a couple days ago. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and give you the image of it, right? Let's go ahead and go there first, right? Let's go there first, right? Might as well just go ahead and show it, right? So you see on your screen there, it says that Harris Warren ignores DOJ report to claim Michael Brown was murdered. Wow. Wow, right? That's all you can say. What? They said that? You would not expect them to say that, right? What? I mean, is this really trying to scrape the barrel? You know what I'm saying? You got all the sediments at the bottom and you're trying to stir it up to try to get it to rise up, right? And a lot of people are appalled that I seen Bill Riley out there. He felt like they should be discredited and not be able to actually be candidates anymore. Some people might agree. Some people may not agree with that. But again, you know, it's to each his own, right? And so let me set this up here before I get there and make sure it's right. Because again, had some technical difficulties as we was getting ready to get into the show, right? So I think we're good and ready now. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, why would somebody decide to take themselves to that level, right? You have to say, man, boy, hold on, wait a minute. That's a lot to be saying, right? So let me go ahead and let me read the article for you while we listen to this. And give me a second. Hold on one second. It says Harris Warren ignores DOJ report to claim Michael Brown was murdered. You know I'm going to say that again. Harris Warren ignored DOJ report to claim Michael Brown was murdered. Now this story came out of the Washington Post. And it came out yesterday, August the 13th. And this is how it reads. Michael Brown's murder forever changed Ferguson and America. His tragic death sparked a desperately needed conversation and a nationwide movement. We must fight for stronger accountability and racial equity in our justice system. August 9th, the tweet from Senator Kamala D. Harris states the following. 5 years ago, Michael Brown was murdered by a white police officer in Ferguson, Missouri. Michael was unarmed, yet he was shot 6 times. I stand with the activists and organizers who continue to fight for justice for Michael. We must confront systematic racism and police violence head on. Then August 9th, another tweet comes out by Senator Elizabeth Warren, and it states the following. Harris tweeted about the 5th anniversary of the murder of Michael Brown. Within minutes, Warren followed saying Brown was murdered by a white police officer in Ferguson, Missouri. Both appear to be echoing a narrative that emerged shortly after Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson shot and killed Brown, 18. The legal definition of murder varies according to jurisdictions, but generally it means killing someone with malice a forethought. In November 2014, the grand jury decided not to indict Wilson after finding that witness reports did not match with evidence. On March 4, 2015, the Obama administration Justice Department issued an 86-page investigative report based on testimony from 40 witnesses and a review of forensic evidence of the shooting that concluded there is no credible evidence that Wilson willfully shot Brown as he was attempting to surrender or was otherwise not posing a threat. The same day, the Justice Department also published the results of its investigation into the Ferguson Police Department, which highlighted systematic exploitation and racial profiling of black residents in Ferguson, such as racial disparity in traffic stops, even though black drivers were less likely to be found with contrabands. Harris and Warren, who are both seeking the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination, appear to accept the results of one report and not the other. The facts. There's little dispute about how the tragedy started. In midday, Brown and his friend Dorian Johnson went to Ferguson Market and Liquor. Brown, who was 6'4" tall and weighed 290 pounds, reached across the counter, seized packages of cigarillos, and shoved the clerk, who notified police. Wilson initially encountered the pair when they were walking in the middle of the street, and he told them to get on the sidewalk. He then realized they were suspects in the robbery he had heard on the police radio, backed his vehicle and SUV to stop them from walking any further. Brown then reached through the driver's window, and punched and grabbed Wilson, according to the reports. There were numerous witnesses deemed credible by investigators. Others were found not to be credible because their accounts were inconsistent or did not match the forensic evidence. We will let their accounts taken from the Justice Department report tell the rest of the story. Some testified reluctantly, with one recounting signs on the street where Brown was shot that said, "Snitches get stitches." Witness 102, a 27-year-old biracial man. Brown was wrestling through the window, but he was unable to see what Wilson was doing. After a few seconds, Witness 102 heard a gunshot. Witness 102 thought that he had just witnessed the murder of a police officer because a few seconds passed before Wilson emerged from the SUV. Brown had tried to grab Wilson's gun but ended up getting shot in one of his hands. The report said autopsy reports result in bullet trajectory, skin from Brown's palm on the outside of the SUV door, as well as Brown's DNA on the inside of the driver's door, corroborated Wilson's account that during the struggle, Brown used the right hand to grab and attempt to control Wilson's gun. Witness 103, a 58-year-old black man, the witness says, saw Brown punching Wilson at least 3 times in the facial area. Though the open driver's window of the SUV, Witness 103 described Wilson and Brown as having hold on each other's shirt. But Brown was getting in a couple of blows. Wilson was leaning back towards the passenger seat with his forearms up in an effort to block the blows. Then Witness 103 heard a gunshot and Brown took off running. Witness 104, a 26-year-old biracial woman. The witness heard gunshots. She looked out the front window and saw Brown at the driver's window of Wilson's SUV. Witness 104 knew that Brown's arms were inside the SUV, but she could not see what Brown and Wilson were doing because Brown's body was blocking her view. Witness 104 saw Brown run from the SUV, followed by Wilson, who hopped out of the SUV and ran after him while yelling, "Stop, stop, stop." Witness 102, Wilson then chased Brown with his gun drawn, but not pointed at Brown, until Brown abruptly turned around in a nearby driveway. Witness 102 explained that it made no sense to him why Brown turned around. Brown did not get on the ground or put his hands up in surrender. Brown made some type of movement similar to pulling his pants up or shoulder shrug, and then charged at Wilson. Witness 103, he saw Brown moving fast towards Wilson. Witness 104, Wilson did not fire his gun as Brown ran from him. Brown then turned around and for a second began to raise his hands as though he may have considered surrendering, but then quickly balled up his fist and in a running position and charged at Wilson. Witness 104 described it as a tackle run, explaining that Brown wasn't going to stop. Wilson fired his gun only as Brown charged at him, backing up as Brown came towards him. Witness 105, a 50-year-old black woman. Wilson told Brown to get down, but Brown did not comply. Instead, Brown put his hands down in a running position. Witness 105 could not tell whether Brown was charging at Wilson or whether his plan was to run past Wilson. But either way, Brown was running towards Wilson. Wilson only shot at Brown when Brown was moving towards him. Witness 108, a 74-year-old black man. This man was a reluctant witness, confided to a friend that he would have fucking shot that boy too. In saying so, Witness 108 mimicked his aggressive stance with his hands out in front of him as though he was about to charge. He did not come forward to the police, but detectives tracked him down and he reluctantly explained that Wilson told Brown to stop or get down and at least 10 times, but instead Brown charged at Wilson. Witness 104. Wilson did not fire while Brown momentarily had his hands up. Witness 104 explained that it took some time for Wilson to fire and that she would have fired sooner. Witness 102, Wilson only fired shots when Brown was coming towards Wilson. It appeared to Wilson 102 that Wilson's life was in jeopardy. Witness 102 said he wanted to bring closure to Brown's family so they would not think that the officer got away with murdering their son. Witnesses 105, she explained that she said coming forward because in speaking with her neighbors, she realized that what they believed had happened was inconsistent with what actually happened. She further explained that she had not been paying attention to media accounts and had been unaware of the inaccuracies being reported. In the report, Johnson is listed as a witness 101. In a recent interview with the Washington Post, he stood by his story that Brown had put his hands up in the air, but that Wilson approached him with his weapon drawn and shot him. The Justice Department report citing witness statements and Johnson did not appear to be in position to see what happened because he had fled as soon as the first shots were fired. Witness 102, he did not see Brown's friend Witness 101 at any time during the incident until Witness 101 came out of nowhere shouting, "They just killed him." Witness 104, the witness first saw Brown's friend, Witness 101, when he took off running as soon as the first shots were fired. She never saw him again. The report added other witnesses have suggested that Brown was shot in his hands and surrendered, have either recanted their statements such as Witness 119 and 125, provided inconsistent statements such as Witness 124, or have provided accounts that are viably untrue such as Witnesses 121, 139, and 132. The report said the ballistic analyst showed that the officers fired a total of 12 shots, 2 from his vehicle and 10 on the roadway. In 3 gunshot volleys, the autopsy found Wilson shot struck Brown as few as 6 or as many as 8 times, killing him. But the report said there is no credible evidence to refute Wilson's stated subjective belief that he was acting in self-defense. We repeatedly sought comments from the Harris and Warren campaign, but did not get a response. We should note that 2 other presidential contenders, Senator Cory Booker, Christian Gillibrand, accurately said that Brown was killed by Wilson in their anniversary tweet. The Pinocchio test. One can certainly raise questions about whether Wilson should have fired as many shots as he did or act appropriately under the circumstance. The racial profiling by the Ferguson Police Department is well documented and fair game for criticism. But Harris and Warren have ignored the findings of the Justice Department to accuse Wilson of murder, even though the Justice Department found no credible evidence to support that claim. Instead, the Justice Department found that the popular narrative was wrong according to witnesses deemed to be credible, some of whom testified reluctantly because of fear of reprisal. The department produced a comprehensive report to determine what happened, making the senator's dismissal of it even more galling. Harris and Warren both earned 4 Pinocchios. All right, so that is the reading of the department. Well, actually, that's what the Washington Post had posted in the paper, right? So when you look at the two candidates, right, Elizabeth Warren and you have Kamala Harris, right? Now, the thing that they both have in common is both of them was either attorneys, lawyers, and even professors, right? When you look at it, right? Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think that Elizabeth Warren was a professor who taught law, was the most sorted out according to what it talks about as into commercial law. She came from Rutgers Law School, right? So you would assume that an individual who taught law, who knows law, practiced law, and also when you look at Kamala Harris, she too went to Hastings College of Law, right? She's also an attorney, right? Matter of fact, she's been a prosecutor. A lot of people hold her kind of accountable about some of the things that she was doing in California. And so again, they both have in common, they're both people of law. So according to the article, it talks about that there was 2 reports, not just one, but it was 2. So they took their stance based on 1 report, right? And so based on the fact that what they came out, both Kamala leading first and August 9th, coming out with the tweet and saying that, she believed, her understanding, her knowledge of, her knowing, right? As a prosecutor, right? She said 5 years ago, Michael Brown was murdered by a white police officer in Ferguson, Missouri. Michael was unarmed, yet he was shot 6 times. Her stance is that she stands with the activists and the organizers who continue to fight for the justice for Michael. And she say we as herself must confront systematic racism and police violence head on. Now, again, there's some controversial aspects about how some people look at Kamala Harris. They question her really authenticity of being associated with Black Americans. Not that she may not be Black, but her real, true understanding of what it is to be a Black American, raised, lineage to, again, we say foundational Blacks, BADOS, ADOS. And so a person who, again, has taken a blow in the last, let's say, what was the campaign, where the white woman came in and really exposed a lot about what everybody else seemed to kind of don't touch that because it's going to get ugly. And she went ahead and she threw it, right? Talked about her record and what she did, and it kind of put her in damage control. So now that it's being the anniversary, again, you are an avid watcher of Black Minds News. We actually did the 5-year anniversary, and we did the edition for that. And so we see that, again, the topic has come back. It's a hot topic. A lot of people believe it's the catalyst of why you end up getting the Black Lives Matter and what has evolved from that point forward. And then I got another story today that I'm going to do behind this one. It's talking about how BIE, the Black Identity Extremists, right? And so Elizabeth Warren also tweeted after Kamala Harris. I'm assuming they don't have a time, but they put her second. And she actually tweeted about the 5th anniversary of the murder of Michael Brown within minutes. And so she said the following, which Brown was murdered by a white police officer in Ferguson, Missouri. So again, Michael Brown name has resonated with a lot of people, and particularly those who are Black Americans, because again, these type of stories are more commonplace with us, more than it may be with other ethnicities and other peoples in this country. Now, again, we probably will never know the entirety of what really took place. There's a lot of speculation because, again, to say that they had 40 witnesses to testify at the grand jury, I didn't know it was that many people. So that means they had to be, that particular morning or that particular time, there was a lot of people present to be able to see what took place. And to say who was credible and who was not credible was under the, let's say, the people who were adjourning or who had to adjudicate this, taking testimonies from people from their perspective. Is kind of like saying, for instance, as an analogy I'll give you, if you were at a corner, wherever you live at, and it's a four crossway, right? So 4 corners on all sides. And you had a person on the east corner, the south corner, the north corner, the west corner, I guess east, north, south, east, and west, right? And an accident took place. And then the police come. And those who stayed around to give the eyewitness testimony of what they see, there will be some parts where all of it will connect, right? Because the one thing is for sure, they seen the crash. But where they was at the time things were, fruitioning, puts them at a different angle, mindset, and vision. And so when you take the testimony from everybody, primarily they're going to be some things, but they're going to be some things that's, again, according to what your position was of it. And so when you hear them talk about what took place and some of the people that were speaking, their position, some people said they seen Michael Brown punching in the vehicle. They didn't know what transpired, but they could see him and what he was doing. Now, the story made sure to let you know that this is a Black man, 6'4", 290 pounds. Anytime a big Black man, regardless, you could be soft teddy bear and all that, and not even really a person who's very physical. But because of your presence, people just have to believe the fact that you had to be dangerous. Now, again, if you're small, I guess that's what you're assuming, somebody bigger than you did there. But again, not everybody big is like the badass. You understand? There's Napoleon complex, little short motherfuckers out here that getting your ass, right? And so they have to make sure that that was in the mind. Now, again, they talk about how Darren Wilson was leaving. Now, again, that kind of got skewed away, which is the fact that he was leaving already from a scene at somebody else's house. Courtney heard the come over the radio there and leaving. Now, to say that he was on his way to go on the call to see somebody walking in the middle of the street, again, you have to ask yourself, if you on your way, and again, talking about robbery, strong arm in progress, what you worry about some motherfucker Jay walking in the street? Right? So he said, and it dawned on him to recognize that he did the U-turn, that these was the ones. Now, again, accordingly, what they had said, that the person at the store never did even call. There was somebody in the store supposedly had called, right? And again, that's all speculative, because again, we don't have all the documents, because again, they had to have this kind of quarantine off in the way they had to process. Only the people involved, testimony and all that was the only ones going to know all that. And so based on all that took place that day, the only person what we know for a fact of the three people that was there, you had Dorian Johnson, you have the police officer, and then Michael Brown, who cannot speak because he no longer exists. And so everybody who testified, they said, well, if their story didn't collaborate the way I'm looking at it with the police officer, then they were not credible. But again, as I said, if a car crash and everybody's on different positions, everybody's going to have a different way of how they see it. Now, some people couldn't see because, again, he blocked. But there might be somebody who could see from the position. They said when the first shot rang out, Dorian took off. But they say, well, I never see him. So, again, people was just sitting there watching, according to what they're saying, right? And so we have to ask ourselves, from a standpoint of being who we are and understand the history we've been in, what's the high probability of you reaching in and trying to grab a cop's gun? Now, again, if he know he's supposed to be this person who did a strong arm, maybe he tried to grab him. You understand? Maybe he tried to grab him. And they see Mike Brown pulling away, and maybe he pulling his gun out. He had to have his gun out, because if he didn't have his gun out, they said, well, he was throwing punches in the window, and somehow the officer is bending back with his arms, bent to protect his face. So when does the gun come into play? You get what I'm saying? How does the gun get into play? Somehow the one hand got to have a gun. Somebody punching, yeah, you trying to cover, but I'm pretty sure the other hand got to be going for the gun because you end up shooting through the door. Matter of fact, it said it was 12 shots, 2 shots from inside the car to go through the door. And did them shots penetrate Michael Brown? Is the question. Did they penetrate him? Because he took off running, right? So let's say, according to some of the testimonies, that they said he jumped out the vehicle and he chased. But they try to make it sound like he didn't chase him. Stop, right? That's according to the testimony that you said is credible. And so, again, they had the one individual in there that was talking about the 108 was like, he was very reluctant. He didn't really want to do the testimony, but he was like that I would have shot his fucking ass too. Now, again, you can take that at face value and say that based on what he just said, see, why would this black man say he would have shot his ass too? But again, there's all the dynamics. You got to also look at the variance when it's dealing with our people. Could this individual be somebody who don't like black children, black people, don't like because where he live at, don't like, you understand? Could that be a variant in that too? You seen what you wanted to see? Now, again, I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just, giving some hypotheticals here, right? Is it possible that this individual could just, again, he's seen what he's seen, and he's seen what he's seen, because, again, they said it didn't make sense for Michael Brown, who was, going the opposite direction, to stop and turn around at him. Well, let's put it to you like this. Only Michael Brown and Darren Wilson really know what the truth was. We don't know what was being said at the time. Mike Brown is at the car, and between Darren Wilson and him, maybe he's saying, hey, motherfucker, use the motherfucker at the woo, try to grab his ass, because he's like, hey, come in. He wasn't. He grabbed him. And Mike Brown ain't trying to get away from him. Next thing, one thing lead to another. But my man popping through the car. So he get hit. He running. Now, we don't know, did they ever have any counters prior? See, that's another thing, too. Do anybody know that maybe Darren Wilson had maybe accosted him earlier? He's 18 years old. Maybe he done had several encounters with this individual. When you come out of neighborhoods and certain cops that they beat, and you grow up in there, and you know what I'm saying? You've been knowing them cops in them neighborhoods for a long time. A lot of people be knowing, detectives and the police that be in our hood. You be knowing them by the name, and they done made a reputation about the kind of shit that they do. Right? So we don't know, was there a history between the two? And so, based on the simple fact that after he had shot him, And you say, well, why did he turn around? And according, they said that, well, he pulled his pants up. Say, that's a black thing, right? You're sagging, so you got to pull your pants up, shrug his shoulder, and then say, fuck it, I'm going at him. Did Mike Brown feel like, man, my man going to try to kill me anyway? Could that have been a thought? Or is it just the fact that he crazy enough that, again, you ain't got no gun, you got no kind of weapon, you going to tackle him up who got a gun? That's telling me, in the way I will rationalize that situation, that you felt already that your life was in imminent danger. That this was it. You know this motherfucker, maybe he got the reputation. We don't know all this. Maybe that reputation was to do that. And so Mike Brown felt that. He already done shot me twice. Because again, we don't know. The autopsy tell us, and the way they showed it. And then again, if you go back and look what I showed, they show holes that they didn't even count. But they showed the dots, but they didn't show the count. So they say 12. We only know what they told you. You only say 6 hit them. That didn't look like 6 when I did the count. Had way more than 6 than if you ask me. I don't know how they saying 6 now. I have the diagram. Go back and look at the video I did on it. You'll see it yourself. So to downplay the whole situation, because who gains to lose more if who's wrong? Well, if Mike Brown is deemed the way it has been, and persistently is still at this point is, then death fell on him because of his non-compliance, fighting against the law. But if the other individual, Darren Wilson, is wrong, then now it reflects against the whole department, the police force, and all that other stuff. So better to scapegoat and put it here than maybe the possibility that what was said was what it is. So you use the testimony of other people. Again, do anybody know who these people are? They start talking about, well, they was half-breeds and they was this age, you understand? And again, a lot of that can have variance in testimony. Not saying that they're not truthful or credible. I'm just saying those can have some biases, even though people don't want to admit that. People act as if sometimes if you could work at a place that discrimination only can be black and white. Discrimination with black folks discriminate against black folks. You understand? So it ain't always the black and white when it comes to having racial tension with each other. A lot of that is some of the stuff we've been fighting to purge ourselves, because you know every time at the end of my show, what do I say about jealousy, spite, and hatred? And I'll get that shit out your damn heart. So they say that somebody had put out there, snitches get stitches. Well, you know, that's a cliche of saying. Do we know that? Was anything shown that? We just said that had been said. Well, of course, in the hood, that's kind of the mantra that is said, and people kind of know. Because again, you don't know all the ins and outs. So you might be informing on something you may not know all the ins and outs. And then a lot of times what happens is when people do try to call themselves being good citizens and trying to, help police out, how do the people who are involved end up finding out that they know? Because somebody is telling what's internal. You understand? A lot of times it be from the inside telling about somebody told from the outside. And the next thing you know, you got trouble. You dealing with shit. So they said they found the DNA of his palm prints inside the vehicle. How do we know that? You get what I'm saying? All I remember is the Trayvon Martin case when the forensic individual who came in there who did his autopsy came right before court and said, I know Zito. I don't know anything. I don't know Zito. Right? He was the one that did the autopsy, and when it came down to giving his testimony, somehow he had amnesia. He didn't remember nothing. So now we supposed to take, again, just because what has been said and documented, that is credible. As again, who stands to lose more about if their credibility comes to find out that this was true? You discredited Dorian Johnson by saying there's no way because these people said they didn't see him, makes it mean that he ran. That means he couldn't have been watching. But Again, they said, soon as he shot and killed him, he comes out and said, they shot him, they killed him. Now, wait a minute. You can see him coming out saying that. So that means he had to be within the vicinity to still be watching what's going down. But again, it deems on who's doing the who's the one observing and judging the situation, whether what is credible and what is not credible. Right? And so you have to ask yourself, with all that came from this case and how this divided up, and they say the racial tension, and matter of fact, this is going to create what they say the BIE is actually a little bit prior before that, but this is here is going to solidify the BIE, which is Black Identity Extremists. And I'm going to do that story next for those who don't know about that and what something they just put out yesterday about. So, running a campaign for president, having problems because one of the issues that both of you came out and talked about is reparations. Let's go ahead and get to this part. They came out, both of them. Kamala Harris, she was talking about reparations, but again, anything in the form of not money. Elizabeth Warren too, same thing, but not in the form of money. Then, when a segment of blacks was rejecting you representing them, and it kind of hurt you coming out as a front runner, now you had to backtrack and do a lot of things trying to not deal with this element, because now it seemed like everybody came out the gate saying reparations, to say now that we'll use this as the foundation of my campaign as a Democrat, because this is primarily a given just on the historical part. But then as time went on, people started to renege on how they originally looked at reparations, when it was like people were going to be steadfast on the fact about money, not just programs. They need some compensation. Then you seen, there's shows in the Black corner of the internet that specifies on dealing with that and bringing out the data, have people who are experts in it and showing the disparity in economics. Now nobody really wants to do it, so they start saying, well, we got polls and the Americans not going to buy this and that. So now you got two people who thought they had this in the bag until they seen the seriousness of how the people who were steadfast to start using slogans of tangible 2020. And that, again, in exchange, what you going to give me for what I'm going to give you, that's not what they wanted. So they try to go through back doors, going through other, facets, trying to get a different segment of Black society. And so now they realize that I'm in trouble. I don't have the Black votes that I need. So what would be better to go and reach here and take the Michael Brown and come out saying this? Because again, as them being lawyers, don't they know that, again, according, I think it talked about in the article, that Darren Wilson could sue them for kind of like defamation for the simple fact that the Department of Justice is the one that deemed him, and the process of what happened in that court that they had in, right? Called him innocent. But again, they said it was 2 reports. Yet the Department of Justice went into Ferguson and found that the department in itself, the results was that there was Black exploitation going on in Ferguson and other cities as well. That, again, I think Chicago and things like that, they were finding that these departments were exploiting the Black people and arresting them in high incarceration, again, versus the rest of the population that dwelt within the department. So to bring this up at this particular time, using this as to get you some foundation to get you back in the game, especially when you're talking about Kamala Harris after the white woman came in there and started bringing about your history as a prosecutor, and it didn't look good. Now, Elizabeth Warren, once you start not talking about any money, there's a lot of people who not trying to even look at that anymore. So you have to say, do we take the credibility of who they are? Because again, they are lawyers. They would know if they said something like that they could come back and harm them. Do they know something that the general public don't know? So you tell me what you think. And again, I just want to bring this out because again, it was out there. And, we just have to realize that, we're going to go here, right? We have to realize that, again, people do desperate things with desperate measures. And if people will go this low to try to garner the black vote, knowing this contradictory to, again, then that means if you're going to say he murdered, then I guess you're going to have to also go out and say that the Department of Justice falsified its, determination. The results that they came were not accurate. So to have two reports, that means it's contradictory. So they took one part of it that says, based on what they said, that Michael Brown was murdered. And based on that, really, when you look at it, why there was this new referendum that all the departments had to have training? You get what I'm saying? Why you need training? If everything was according to law, you was already doing everything according to the way it's supposed to be done. That was just one particular incident that, again, just the way it appeared, the way it been shown, the way it been told, people misunderstood. But you did everything accordingly. But that must not have been it, because now it would end up happening. All the police departments now had to go through some kind of retraining. So maybe they know something we don't know. But again, you got the question, if they said it, are we using it as a political ploy, or are they just being truthful about their statements? Well, you comment, tell me what you think. Again, this is Black Minds News. Just wanted to bring this out here again, I try to keep those on my channel to be a little informed about some of the stuff that's going on out there. And again, let me go ahead and put this out, and then I'll be right back to the end, do the end of this. So check this out, I'll be right back. All right. So, yeah, I want to thank everybody for your participation. I don't know what happened here. Hold on. Go back, y'all. There we go. Okay, I want to thank everybody who did their participation by coming over here and watching Black Minds News. Again, remember, when you see one another, greet one another with what's good, brother, what's good, sister. Give the universal nod and take all that hate, jealousy, envy, spite, and understand we is all in this together. Gotta understand what uniforms and what team you on. Yes, you can have allies. Allies are important. Are yours willing to be in the frying pan once the shit get hot? Ask them if they know about John Brown and the John Brown story. Ask them, is it real to them? Know that this is the time and things are happening, and some people might be out here seeking for our demise. So we, as ADOS, must stay vigilant, must stay mindful, cautious, and high-spirited. Again, from Black Minds New, from Mr. Blows Your Minds, we want to say to the next show, peace, love. To the next, y'all.